Well, hello there. You've noticed that I've got a big mustache growing, and this is because it's the month of November, and for the occasion I'm supporting a charity, actually Men's Health. All the details in the video description, and the whole of this month you're gonna see that mustache grow and grow and grow. It's gonna be quite fun. But away from that, we're still making a recipe today. I've got the bowl, I've got the molds, and that means we're making some baking. The recipe of the day is the financier, that famous French little cake like a petit four. It is delicious, and we're gonna cover it with all kinds of fruit. It's gonna be fun. All the details coming up in a bit. Hello everyone, and welcome to my great mustache today. I feel like Freddie Mercury, or what is the other one, like Super Mario, you know, in the video games. But anyway, all of this month is going to be growing. So the financier we're doing today is the little bite-sized cakes, and that are almond based. They're very, very easy to make, but they do have a little bit of history. So I've got my little notebook here, or iPad, should I say. And to tell you the origin, it started in the 17th century, where the biscuit was called originally the Visitandine. It was created by some nuns from the Order of the Visitation. The reason for that name is that they were visiting sick people around town, and they were also selling these biscuits, which were at the time oval in shape, which is not the case here. As you can see, I've got these standard round molds that we all have at home. And what happened with the name is that in the modern time, apparently it says that the Swiss people in Switzerland, in the places of money near the stock exchange, and there was some bakery, and they kind of revived that old recipe, but they've changed the shape of the biscuit from that oval shape into a rectangular kind of lingot or ingot in English, that kind of gold bars, and to sell to the traders or people working at the stock exchange. So it was a plain biscuits that you could just grab with your hand, bite size, and they would bite a few, go back to their stock exchange and eat the biscuit, and hence the name financier or financier that stayed up to today. Of course, today we're not going to be making this kind of gold bar shape, because I didn't find the mold, and maybe you don't have them. I just found this muffin kind of time. It works very well. I've tested it, and it is utter delicious. So let's not waste any more time, and let's start the recipe. In order to make financier, the financier cake, you're going to need the following ingredients: 50 grams of plain flour, 60 grams of almond meal, also called ground almond, 150 grams of icing sugar, 3 egg whites, and 150 grams of plain butter. For the topping, it's up to you, but today I'm going to be using pear, raspberries, and flaked almonds. For the bakeware and utensils, I'm going to be using today a small saucepan, a muffin pan, a little grid here to let the financier cool down, a large glass bowl, a wooden spoon, and a whisk. One of the key ingredients when you make the financier is to create what we call in French cooking the beurre noisette, the hazelnut colored butter. And in order to do that, you're going to have to take all of the butter and put it in a small saucepan like this over medium heat, and we're going to start melting the whole of the butter. And what's going to happen is that the butter fat and the milk solid will start to separate. And when we have that, we're going to be able to brown the milk solids to create what we call the beurre noisette. But I'm going to show you that just now. Alright, so here we are. As you can see here, everything is melted, and you hear that noise? That is the chant, what we called, of the butter. And while the butter is chanting, it means that basically it's still in the process of becoming that hazelnut butter. It's a bit of a gimmick to say that, but really what we're doing here is that we're going to basically brown the milk solids of the butter. But we don't want to burn them, so to avoid burning them, this is why you keep on whisking your mixture like that all the time until the butter is going to start to turn into a light hazelnut color. So after a few minutes, I've turned my heat on low now to show you. As you can see, the butter has got that kind of brownish hazelnut color, the beurre noisette. This is the type of color you want. So as soon as you got this, turn the heat off, and we're going to filter our butter. Filtering the butter is very simple. Take a small container. I'm taking a little sieve like this, and you're just going to pass your butter through to make sure you catch most of the burn bits in there. And now let's make the batter. Now if there's one thing I've learned with baking, because that's not my forte, that first you need to respect the grammage, and the second thing is that you need to pass everything through a sieve or sifting. Yeah? So you start with the flour, and using like a large sieve or something like that, bang, filter it. And then you're gonna go on with the icing sugar. Now icing sugar can be a bit of a pain because you got these massive bits in there. So I first start by shaking like this with my hands, and I'm gonna use a spoon to crush all the big bits through. Hold on, look at this lovely sugar. So this is the dry product, so we're gonna keep on going with the dry product. So after the sugar and the flour, I'm gonna put all of the almond meal in, and with my wooden spoon, just gonna mix the whole lot. When you're done, we can add the liquid. So very simple, you can make a little well at the bottom. You're gonna start with the egg white, all in there, all at once. It's a bit like a crepe batter. And so you start to incorporate the mix, basically, with the egg white, slowly. So you make sure you see it's gathering the stuff in the middle. So you start this with just the egg white before we add the butter. Okay, beautiful. So you can see here, I still have some flour on the side. And my mix is kind of little bit still liquid. And then I can start to add my hazelnut butter. So a little bit at a time. You start in 2 or 3 times is fine. And you slowly incorporate the butter in. So you don't put everything at once. You want to keep that dough relatively kind of gooey. And as soon as it's incorporated like that, basically you add a bit more butter. It's like a crepe batter. It's nothing difficult. Slowly, same thing. You incorporate until it's all done. And that's it, guys, you're done. Look at this. This is the consistency you want to have. It's nice and beautiful. And how easy was that? You're basically here done. You've done your financier batter. What needs to happen now is the resting time. We need to leave this to rest for 1 hour in the refrigerator. So first we're going to cover it and then put it in the fridge. So to cover your batter, you take a piece of Glad wrap and you're going to cover it to the touch, meaning that this needs to touch basically your dough so it doesn't dry up on the top. We're going to leave this for 1 hour. And now before we put this in the fridge, the test drive. Always try your raw batter to know if you're on the right track. So let me... It's amazing that, honestly, that hazelnut butter's got that name, but it actually almost tastes like hazelnut. And that batter is good, and I know that this financier is gonna be pretty good. So let's put this in the fridge for 1 hour, and then we're gonna cook the financier. 1 hour has passed, and now we're ready to start dishing in and cooking the financier. Now before we do so, I like to say, but the type of mold, the tins you can use, I'm using the standard muffin pans. You can use the real one, the rectangular one. I'll put a link in the video description. So what you need to do first, even though I've got a non-stick coating, I'm melting some butter on a brush, and I'm gonna coat the interior or every single hole in here to make sure our financier does not stick. So that's the first step. And now for the batter. So I'm zooming on these 4 little cavities here because you have to remember that the financier is a small biscuit. You're not making a muffin, you're not making a cake. They are bite-sized petit four style things. So usually about a tablespoon of batter, which is about like that much, should be enough to have your little cake. So what you're going to do is fill at least a tablespoon of batter in every single cavity here. Alright, hold on. So I've done my best to kind of equally measure everything. So some of them might be a little bit more than the others, but it doesn't matter. And now for the toppings. It is really up to you to decide what you want. You guys asked me, oh, can you recommend something else than strawberry? Because this is what I was announcing. You can basically put anything you like. The biscuit or the little cakes, shall I call them, are based with almond. So almond taste. And if the strawberry is not in season, I'm going to put, for instance, a piece of pear. Pear and almond goes very well. Another one, I'm going to use maybe a raspberry. And if you want the original one, maybe you can do a little bit of almonds. You know, it's that simple, but don't overdo the garnish, and just a little piece on each biscuit, their little cakes, that's it. I'm all done. So as you can see, the little variation of, you know, raspberries and pears and everything. And now we're ready to cook the financier. Now, cooking times, very important. Most of the recipe says it's 10 minutes at either 200 degrees Celsius, which is 392 Fahrenheit, or 180 degrees centigrade, which is about 356. From the test I've done, because we don't know exactly how thick they are, what works the best for me, we're gonna start 5 minutes of cooking at 200 degrees Celsius, and which is 396 Fahrenheit for 5 minutes, just to give that little boost of heat. And after the 5 minutes, you're going to reduce the heat to 180, which is about 356, I think, Fahrenheit, and leave them to cook at least for 10 minutes. I'll show you exactly to know when they're ready. It can take a bit more, 12, perhaps 15 minutes, if your biscuit or cakes are a little bit thicker. Okay, so when the financier looks like they're cooked, like here, you take a knife like that, and they say you have to plunge the knife in. Okay, and the knife must be coming out, oh yeah, it must be coming out wet like this, but non-sticky. That looks like it's cooked. Perfect. Let me take them out. And here we are, a close-up shot on the financier cake. There's something quite therapeutic about looking at cakes that are just out of the oven. I don't know, it must be something to do with the childhood or something. So from here, it says a final step, you need to sprinkle a little bit of icing sugar. That's as soon as they're cooked. I'm being a bit rough here, but yeah, more or less something like that. And then you have to let them cool down for at least 15 minutes before we can cut them open and try them out. The waiting time is over, people, and now it is time to break open the financier cake. This is my favorite moment of all. So I've selected here the three. I've got the pear, the almond, and the raspberry. And shall I say, I'm going to start to operate with this one. The raspberry financier, and see what it's all about inside, and then test it. So, bread knife, and let's try to get it open. Let me try that. Interesting, but I have to say that the flavor of the raspberry tends to overpower the rest of the cake. Let me try the basic one. The almond on almonds. Double almond. And let me try that. And that's more like it. Now you can really feel the almonds, but really that hazelnut butter. I can really feel that in there. Now let's finish off with the pear one. Let me try again this one. I think the pear, it's a nice addition with the almond, honestly. So these are the contestants, and this is the financier. Actually, they're really good. They taste well. You can really vary the fruit and get some subtle flavor that you like. But what I need to say is that this is an extremely easy to do recipe. This financier cake will last at least 24 up to 48 hours. You can even leave them, covered with a tea towel or something, and the next day I think they're even better. So there you go, an easy recipe for this week. But that's it, guys. That completes our financier baking recipe. It's a success, so I'm really glad. So as always, if you like the video, put it a thumbs up. If you want to comment or ask questions, please do so. And if you want to support me on Patreon or tp.com, I really appreciate that, because it's really helped me make more video and grow this channel. And anyway, I'll see you all next week for another easy French cooking video. I'll see you then. Take care all. Bye bye.